Welcome to chapter 6 of our Greek lessons, and we are looking at the idea of tenses in Greek. So far we've already looked at the tense of the present tense, and we have other tenses. As you know, in English we have past, present, future tenses. In Greek we also have different tenses, as you will see. So just some examples of different words in different tenses before we actually look at various tenses we have in Greek. For example, in John chapter 14 verse 1, pisteuete eis ton theon, you believe in God. That's a present tense. Pantes pistouzin eis auton, everyone will believe in him. So that's the future tense, pistouzin. And then hoi adelphoi autou epistovon eis auton, his brothers were believing in him. So that's the imperfect tense. And then we have John 4:50, epistozen ho anthropos to logom, the man believed in God. So already here we have the four tenses in Greek. We have the present tense, we have the future tense, we have the imperfect tense, and the aorist tense. And we'll talk shortly about what each of these tenses are about. Okay. So four tenses: present, future, imperfect, aorist. The different tenses communicate about the time when the action is taking place: present, future, and past. The aspect, the nature of the action. Was it processed? Is it completed? For example, luzomen, we will untie, and so you can see that we have added a sigma there. So the sigma is a differentiating part of the tense. So distinguishing the tenses: present, as you know, the present tense is luo, the future tense luzo, so we have a sigma there. Imperfect, eluon, so we have a prefix epsilon, and then the ending is different. And then we have aorist, it also has a prefix epsilon, and then the stem, and then the suffix, which is sigma, so eluza. So we call this the prefix, and we call this the suffix, we call this the stem, and this is the ending. So that's how we are able to differentiate the various tenses. So the prefix and suffixes are the easiest to spot. You can see them. The two past tenses, aorist and imperfect, have an epsilon prefix, or which we also call augment, and the future and the aorist both have a suffix. So no prefix, no suffix, present tense. No prefix plus suffix, future. Prefix, no suffix, imperfect. Prefix, suffix, aorist. So that's how we are able to differentiate. That's how we are able to differentiate the tenses. So the meaning of the present of the tenses. So the present tense is process or undefined. So I am untying or I untie. We've already learned the present tense. The future is the time and aspect. I will untie. So it's undefined. So we don't, in the future something will happen, but we don't know whether it's going to happen as process or as one point in time. The imperfect is time is past, and the aspect is process. I was untying, so it's something happening in the past, but it's happening as process. It's happening as process in the past. And then aorist is past tense. Time is aspect is undefined, so it's I untied. Okay. The difference between the imperfect and the aorist. Aorist is undefined, I untied. Imperfect is process, I used to untie. I was untying, I began to untie. So like in Matthew 5:2, he opened his mouth and began to teach. Opened his mouth is aorist, began to teach, imperfect. So this chart will show you the translation or translation of each of these tenses we know the present tense, and of course we know the future, and we have the person first, second, third, singular, and first, second, third plural. The same goes for imperfect, and the same goes for aorist. So just take time to learn this chart and see how we translate each of these. So here we are, present tense, luo, lueis, luei, luomen, luete, luozin. In the future, luzo, luzeis, luzei, luzomen, luzete, luzozin. In imperfect, elwon, elwes, elwen, elwomen, elwete, elwon. In aorist, eluza, eluzas, eluzamen, eluzam, eluzan, eluzamen, eluzate, eluzan. Okay, so you have the practice there. You can look at it on page 70. Translate, practice. The endings. Ho Jesus edidasken ente synagoge kai poloi epistozan. Edidasken is imperfect, therefore describing a past process. Jesus was in the process of teaching in the synagogue. Epistozan is aorist, therefore describing a past undefined, not a process action. Many believed and came to believe. So Jesus was teaching in the synagogue and many believed. The same goes for ho theos empempen tus angelus ala nun esmen monoi. Esmen is imperfect. Empepen is imperfect. Esmen is present. So God used to send messengers. But now we are alone. So let's now move on to our vocabulary. Anoigo, I open. Apocalypto, I review, I uncover. Baptizo, I baptize. Deep. Grapho, I write. Dioko, I pursue. That's where you get the word I persecute. Doxazo, I praise. Keruzo, I proclaim, preach. Krazo, I cry out. Pempo, I send. Pempetho, I persuade. Sozo, I save, rescue, heal. Upako, I exist. Aiteo, I ask. Eulogeo, I speak well of, bless. Eucharisto, I give thanks. Oikodomeo, I build up. Proseoko, I take heed of, I pay attention. Arti, now, just now. Eti, still yet. Ede, already. Nun, now. Ote, when. Oketi, no longer. Upo, not yet. Palin, back or again. Pantote, always. Pote, once. Semeron, today. Tote, then. Duo, two. Timotheos, Timothy. Topos, place. So words beginning with a vowel. Watch out when an epsilon is added to a word beginning with a vowel. So alpha becomes A, epsilon becomes eta, omicron becomes omega, and these remain unchanged. Eta, iota, upsilon, omega, they remain unchanged. Diphthongs follow the chart. A becomes A with an iota subscript. Au becomes nu, becomes L, and then A becomes E with an iota subscript. L becomes L. It's lengthened. Most of these are lengthened. So compound verbs. Watch out for compound verbs as well. Apoluo becomes apeluon in the imperfect. Ekbalo becomes exebalon. Upago becomes epegon, and you can see the formula how we get there. Sunago becomes sunegon in the imperfect. So the lengthening of the prefixes is happening in these words. Agon, contractions and elisions. Agon becomes egon. Anablepon becomes aneblepon. Anagon becomes anegon. So watch out when a sigma is added to stem of a verb ending in a consonant. So pi plus pi, beta, phi plus sigma becomes ps. Tau plus delta, theta, zeta plus sigma. becomes sigma, doesn't change, and then kappa, gamma, chi, and double sigma plus sigma becomes chi. So blepo becomes blepso, baptizo becomes baptizo, and anoigo becomes anoixo. So what you see there is that pi plus phi becomes ps, ps. So that sound is captured by psi. The same goes for baptizo. So you must be careful with baptizo. In the future, the present is baptizo with a zeta, and the future is baptizo with a sigma. Okay, take note of that. Egon is really, and thus is an imperfect. Anoixo is really anoixo, thus a future. Very few verbs begin with eta or omega, which are equal to aorist, and almost no verbs end in or in phi, chi, and sigma, future or aorist. So exo is unusual. Imperfect exon being augmented, future exo as expected. Tenses in the epsilon omega verbs. In the future and aorist, the addition of the sigma suffix causes two changes. The epsilon is lengthened to an m, eta, and the endings are now next to the sigma, not the weak epsilon, so there are no contractions. So here is the chart for the epsilon omega verbs: philo, philes, philei, philomen, philete, philozin; philezo, philezeis, philezei, philezomen, philezete, philezozin; ephilon, ephileis, ephilei, ephilomen, ephilon, and ephilete, ephilon, and then ephileza, ephilezas, ephilezen, ephilezamen, ephilezete, ephilezan. So that's the tenses that we have in the Greek language. Take time to practice and get to know how each of these is translated and how we recognize them. Let me take you back again to how we recognize these tenses. So here is the chart again: luso, luo, luzo, eluon, eluza. Present is luo, future is luzo, imperfect is eluon, aorist is eluza. Present means it's either process or undefined. Future is undefined. Imperfect is process in the past, and aorist is undefined in the past. So that's the meaning of these tenses. So thank you for your time. God bless you. Have a good week. Thank you.